And that can be stuff like sea buckthorn or sea berry, autumn olive, gumi. There's one called gumi, G-O-U-M-I, and that puts out a little red cherry fruit. And those actually fix nitrogen in the soil through the atmosphere. So that acts as plant food too. And then at the end of the year, when those leaves drop off, it releases nitrogen both into the soil down below with the roots and then through the leaf litter on top. So it acts as a plant food for your nearby plants. So then again, you don't have to buy more plant food because it's growing right there. And it's putting out fruit for you too. And it's feeding your bees. So there's like really cool multitasking plants that we can use. Another one is, it's called the Maximilian sunflower. And it puts up, you can make a big, fat, thick hedge of it. And the roots are really tight so you can keep gophers out and stuff, and it feeds your bees. You can eat the shoots, you can eat the seeds. You know, those kind of multi-purpose plants are what we really want to look for. If you walk in nature, you see the layers. So again, we're talking low. You can go a little bit higher, you're looking at like your basil. You can just walk around and kind of see what matches. You know, like this guy would have been in the herb layer, but now it's in the tree layer basically. Yeah, it's like, what is in the soil? I don't know. I mean, it's nuts. Making me like look small. You know, basil, herbs, stuff like that. Go a little bit higher. You're looking at your shrubs, raspberries, currants. Currants are a huge favorite of mine because they can fruit in the shade. Gooseberries as well. You know, and deer really don't like them. They don't like the taste of the leaves, so you can actually get away with a lot more. And now I've got so much shade in my spot in Minnesota because there's already a lot of established oak trees, and I'm just trying to kind of clear out some of the non-oak trees like the brush and the ironwoods, and I plant fruit trees in between, and now it's getting kind of shady, so I'm trying to just fill it in with currants and gooseberries because those are one of the few things that can still fruit reliably well. So you kind of want to go to the nursery and see what those things are, because when you get into the forest garden scene, after a while you're going to have a canopy and you're going to have to find stuff that you're still going to be able to get some production out of. Besides that, you know, the leafy greens, things that don't need to fruit as well. If you're seeing tomatoes and peppers, squash, things that are putting out the fruit, they really need the sun. But if not, you know, if you're looking at, you know, Swiss chard, nasturtium, things like that, kale, those can go in the shade a little bit more. You know, like nettles and all your leafy greens can really be partial shade. Not full shade, but partial. And if you're getting into full shade, what could you grow? Like what kind of plants do you think would grow in full shade? Not a lot, right? Mushrooms. Yeah, mushrooms are the thing. And if you're looking at pound per pound, I'm not going to get all analytical and price crazy about stuff, but I can grow spinach and I might get $2 a pound at the farmer's market for it. Or I can grow shiitake mushrooms or lion's mane or chanterelle, and I might be getting $15, $20, $30 a pound. And it's a real noble food compared to just an average, you know, garden veg. Animals don't like it, grows really well in the shade, it doesn't take a lot of time. It takes a little bit of time. I mean, it depends on your moisture and your heat and everything, but as far as like full-on production, maybe 6 months to a year. Who's got their phone? Just kidding. So the mushrooms, and then that was the thing. A really good company that I like is Paul Stamets company. You guys know Paul Stamets? Yeah. And it's really cool to support him because he's got really big time credibility. He's done TED Talk. People know who he is. So by supporting him, you're really kind of supporting his mission, and that's really what this is all about. Is people ask me like, oh, what can I do if I'm in my apartment still, you know, and sure I can plan. I tell people, you know, get a piece of paper, draw out your plan, start manifesting, get it on paper, start designing it. Even if you don't know what the land looks like yet, just kind of get a feel for it. And then you get it in your heart and it starts happening somehow. Like people come asking you if you're looking for land and just weird sorts of things. Up until that point, until you're ready to start doing it yourself, the best thing you can do is support the people that are doing it. And that includes, you know, going to the farmer's market, finding people that are giving garden tours, you know, supporting the community gardens. By that action, you can really speed it up as if you were doing it yourself, and you're still eating the most, you know, nutritious food grown with love. You know, so that's really the number one thing you can do if you can't start right away on your own, is to just support those that are, because we're all brothers and sisters in this, and basically, you know, erase your human story and you're the same person anyways. So by supporting them, you're supporting yourself, and we're all in this together. So
Does anyone have any questions so far? I don't mind if anyone wants to see.
Yeah, you mentioned the mushrooms. How nutritious are mushrooms pound for pound with spinach compared to spinach?
Well, I think medicinally so much more. I mean, and I'm not like super well versed, but you've got like beta glucans and terpenes and things like that. And you've got to know how to extract it. Mushrooms, you definitely want to cook them to get the good stuff out of it. You know, raw mushrooms, you're not going to break the cell walls that have the medicine, and you're probably just going to eliminate. So what you want to do is use some heat to extract that and break the cell walls, and then you can get the most out of your mushrooms. I'm growing oyster mushrooms right now, shiitake, and when I say growing, that means I've injected them and I'm waiting to see them pop out. But I have seen turkey tails pop out and oyster mushrooms. And what I've read so far is the best ones for beginners are shiitakes and oysters. They're very vigorous, they eat most kinds of wood, and it's just kind of easy to start with. Your best bet is just to find some wood that's been freshly cut. Give it about 3 weeks to a month to let the natural antifungal properties in the wood break down. Because when you cut down a tree, it's going to naturally have that resistance to try and keep it from, it doesn't know that it's been chopped into little pieces, but it's trying to kind of keep the fungus out. And if you let that break down for a little bit, let the log soak or just hose it down with some water, inject those plug spawn from Fungi Perfecti, that's Paul's company, cover it with a little wax to keep the moisture in. That was one of my biggest mistakes early on. I didn't know about the wax, and I would just drill the hole, pound it in, and then leave it, and I would come back and it would be all dried out, and it really needs to stay moist. I mean, the wax is a really good way.
Do you water it?
Yeah, you do water it, yep. And so what I did in my greenhouse, I made a big log pile behind the greenhouse, and it's kind of turned into like a chipmunk woodchuck hotel, like they live under that and all this. And, it's like, I let a woodchuck, I don't let a woodchuck live, but I didn't want to hurt her, you know, and she was doing her thing, it's so cute. This spring, she had 5 babies. And I see her walk, I see a baby, and then I see like, oh my God, there's 5 behind her. And I was like, oh. And they're so cute, you know, and if you don't move, they don't see you. So you can stand right by their hole and they'll climb up and like, they don't see you. It's so funny. Like I just sit there and film them, and people think, you know, people probably think I'm like, you know, a monk or something, and they're like on my shoulders, but they don't notice you're there, and they're funny. And then I used to dumpster dive a lot, and I got into that in New York City, and that's really kind of what got me so into like the juicing and the greens. And I read this book called Evasion, which is this memoir of this kid who got into this lifestyle, and he graduated from high school and just really he became a freegan. He was squatting, very kind of political stuff too, but it's an amazing read, and it really inspired me to start dumpster diving. And I was a model in New York at the time, and you know, when you're doing that kind of stuff, you're not making money right away. You kind of have to build your book up, and it takes a while. And I didn't have a side job because I was trying to be fit and go to the gym so I could, you know, be ready for castings and all this. So I wasn't making much money, hardly any. So I really got into dumpster diving. And in New York City, it's so great because you can just go to your favorite organic health food store at 10 p.m. and just sit there with your headlamp and just kind of wait. And then the employees will come out with the bags and set them on the sidewalk. And then they go home, you know. And then you just walk over and, oh my God, there's like kale, apples, you know, little dimples, out just pulling stuff. And I was like, oh my, this is crazy. So I would go, this is such a tangent, but I would go home and then I would like juice for 2 hours. I'd like juice a big gallon and then put it away. Because I was living with like 4 Brazilian guys, and you only have so much room in the fridge. And yeah, I had to I'd come home with like a big bags every night, you know, there's just so much waste. And this was a small organic health food store in the East Village. And just, you know, bags and bags, and you know which days are best and everything. So I still do it a little bit. Once you realize how good it is, it's almost like you just gotta look, you know. And in Minnesota, and I mostly do it for the animals because I want to really try and feed them other stuff so they don't eat my plants. So I'll go and there'll be like big watermelons cut in half, and I'm just throwing it out by their pile and everything. So they're living well, you know.